Hi, it's Sarah. How many times have we been told that dairy fat from butter, cheese, and cream clogs your arteries? Well, it's just not true. In fact, new clinical research shows dairy actually contains 3 super nutrients that actually protect you from heart disease. So why, after all of these years, are we still being told by clueless news reporters with no background in science and government health agencies still using now debunked research that dairy fat from butter, cheese, and cream, as well as other full-fat dairy, is bad for you, or that it will clog you up faster than a hairball caught in a drain? Have they been wrong all this time? Think about it. It wouldn't be the first time the government, the media, and the online fact checkers got it all wrong when it comes to nutrition. And these days, I think we are all a lot more educated than we used to be. So why the misinformation? I'll save that conspiracy theories for another video, but check this out. Between the years 1910 and the year 2000, we as Americans consumed way less butter, down to just 4 pounds per year from 18 pounds per year. But guess what went up? Heart disease. In fact, it quadrupled. Weird, right? So on an average, we ate almost 5 times the amount of butter in 1910, and yet heart disease was virtually non-existent. How? Obviously, dairy fat is not the culprit. Don't believe me? Take a look at this. When we look at all of the hype about dairy fat being bad for you, if that really was true, why are the French so much leaner than Americans? And why is their rate of heart disease so low in comparison when their diet is super high in full-fat cheese, butter, and heavy cream? Same goes for the Swiss. They're famous for their diet rich in full-fat dairy. Or the Eastern Europeans living in the Caucasus Mountains. Many of them live to be over 100 years old, and they routinely drink full-fat dairy in the form of kefir. So what's the deal? Look, I could list a dozen more examples that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that high-fat dairy is not bad for you. The bottom line is that the so-called experts have it all wrong. The real truth is certain compounds found in dairy fat can actually prevent arterial clogging and lower your risk of heart disease. I'll share some of the compounds in just a moment. But first, what you really need to know is that the culprit here is inflammatory foods. I'm talking about things like sugar, corn syrup, processed grains, trans fats, and vegetable oils like soybean and corn oil. These are the type of foods that are actually behind the rise in heart disease we see across the country. And just so you know, it's not just by observing cultures around the world and looking at their intake of dairy fat that we have come to these conclusions. There's plenty of scientific evidence too. In fact, 3 nutrients found in grass-fed dairy fat have been studied intensively. Notice I said grass-fed. There's a big difference between grain and grass-fed dairy. See, the 3 nutrients that have shown promise in reducing your risk of heart disease are found mostly in grass-fed dairy, also known as pasture-raised, and not in conventional grain-fed dairy. They're also found in the fat portion of the dairy specifically. So if you want all of the benefits, you'll want to stay away from the fat-free and the low-fat versions. And just so you know, most of the dairy you find in Europe and places like New Zealand are all grass-fed. It's mostly us silly Americans who grain feed cattle. That's why it's a good bet that you're getting those nutrients when you choose European cheeses. Same goes for butter too. Luckily, grass-fed dairy is a trend that is catching on, and you'll find more and more brands who do grass-feed their livestock. Most of the time, this is done on small family farm operations that allow their cows to freely roam and forage on grass and herbs. Make sense? Okay, let's get to those 3 powerhouse nutrients I've been talking about. And powerhouse nutrient number 1 is vitamin K2. Now you may have heard about vitamin K1. It's found in leafy green veggies and it's good for you. However, when it comes to heart disease, vitamin K1 doesn't really do anything. In fact, researchers haven't found any link positive or negative to heart disease in vitamin K1. Vitamin K2, on the other hand, well, that's a different story. In a study published in the Journal of Nutrition in 2004, researchers found found that people who consumed the most vitamin K2 had a 51% lower risk of heart attack and a 25% lower risk of death from all causes compared to those eating the least vitamin K2. The study also concluded that higher vitamin K2 consumption reduced arterial calcification too. And it's not all about heart health either. Vitamin K2 helps with arthritis as well. In fact, studies suggest K2 not only reduces arterial calcification, but it also reduces calcification of the soft tissues of the body too, including your joints. And can you guess what one of the best sources of vitamin K2 is? Grass-fed dairy fat, including butter, cream, and certain types of cheese. You can also find vitamin K2 in organ meats, egg yolks, and certain fermented foods that use a specific starter culture. And if you're wondering what types of cheese have the most vitamin K2, Brie and Gouda apparently have the most vitamin K2 due to the cultures that are used to ferment the cheese. Okay, let's move on to powerhouse nutrient number 2, CLA, or conjugated linoleic acid. CLA is a healthy fat found in the fat from grass-fed meat or dairy. Studies have shown that CLA may lower the risk for certain types of cancer and arterial sclerosis, also referred to as hardening of the arteries, in addition to helping you lose weight. And grass-fed dairy and meat contains 300 to 500% more CLA than grain-fed meat. Next, we have powerhouse nutrient number 3, omega-3 fats. Now, most people are well aware of the health benefits of omega-3 fatty acids, including their importance to heart health and lowering inflammation. Most people are also aware that grass-fed dairy fat is a great source of omega-3 fatty acids. In fact, the ratio between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids is much better than grass-fed dairy. That's important because so many people get way too much omega-6 fats in their diet, and taking in plenty of omega-3s help to balance it out. Now, just to be clear, grain-fed dairy isn't necessarily bad for you. It's just that their health benefits are marginal. That's why choosing organic is so important. However, if you're consuming grass-fed dairy, it doesn't have to be organic because the cows will naturally be exposed to less chemicals and toxins when compared to grain-fed cows. Bottom line, consuming full-fat grass-fed dairy is not bad for you. In fact, it's extremely good for you. Not to mention, it's delicious and it's super high in those 3 powerful nutrients I just mentioned. And speaking of powered nutrients, we share a lot more tips and strategies just like this every month inside our private online coaching community. It's called Fit Squad Elite. In each month, in addition to brand new workout routines, a private member-only forum, and downloadable app to keep you on track. Members also receive brand new monthly meal plans, grocery lists, and delicious recipes. It's by far the fastest and easiest way to get on track and stay on track and have fun while getting in the best shape of your life. You can learn more about Fit Squad Elite by clicking on the link below.